we're gonna do a little change of plans here. So I want to proceed with the next panel. So we're gonna skip through these slides really quickly. Let me just advance this stuff. Yeah. So we may come back to this in maybe at the end of the day. But at this time, actually, I would like my panelists to join me. We have Philip, Ohad, and Sanjeev. So where are you? Yes, come on up here and join me. Let's get this started. All right, so how many of you are familiar with MetaMask snaps? Let me just see a quick show of hands. How many of you are using MetaMask snaps to access other blockchains? Anyone using it for Solana, for Cosmos, for Starknet? Okay, very cool. So we're going to learn a little bit about that today. And if anyone has eyes on Sanjeev, please send him up here. Yeah. So let's kick this off. I want to introduce my panelists. Can you each tell us who you are, what you're doing, and a little bit about your Snap integration?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Philip. I'm the co-founder of Solflare. My role is more on the commercial side, so marketing product, and not technically, I'm not a developer, so maybe I'm the odd one out here. At Solflare, we are big on putting control back into the user's hands. This manifests right now as in itself in a Solana-only wallet. Solflare right now has more than 3 million monthly active users. 20% of all circulating Sol is being either held or staked through Solflare. And we have also built one of the most successful snaps out there. The snap currently has more than 800,000 downloads. And I think over $60 million have been bridged from ETH to Solana using the snap. And there's like a very healthy amount of users using the snap currently on Solana.
Okay. So I'm Ohad. I'm a technical product manager and team lead of product manager in Starkware, there for 4 years already. Okay. Managing a lot of the application building that's happening on Starknet, both inside and outside Starkware, as well as making sure developers have all the tools they need, including the relationship with MetaMask and other wallets.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, so Starknet is actually an Ethereum layer 2, but it's not EVM based. So we enabled the functionality for that with a snap.
Yeah, that was very impressive.
Yeah. So I wanted to first ask you guys some questions about your ecosystem. So can you tell us a little bit about what people are doing on chain, on Solana and on Starknet?
Mm-hmm. So currently, I mean, as maybe all of you know, there's like this big meme coin, celebrity coin craze going on in Solana right now. It's a vast majority of the on-chain transactions right now. This is also what we see in the wallet as well. If you see, for example, look at the top 10 most used apps on Solflare, 8 of them would be DEXs of some sort. And apart from that, there's also games that are heavily being used in Solana. Because of Solana's basically nearly free transactions, there are a couple of games who use on-chain transactions for every step that you take in the game. Not for every step, but for every meaningful action you take, like, for example, Star Atlas, which is like this big space AAA game, whatever, it's being developed. And there's like a healthy amount, again, of games on Solana. But meme coins, celebrity coins, unfortunately, take the cake.
So in Starknet we have many projects. Meme coins is not one of them. Like we have our own spawn of meme coins, but we didn't really get or even try to get, I think, most of this activity. We do have, because we are not yet Solana levels, but we are the cheapest L2 out there, we also experience a lot of on-chain gaming where not only assets, but also a lot of the logic is handled on-chain. We have a lot of tooling, and we'll continue to develop tooling for like games to be really, really seamless and turn to Web 2 gamers, which is much larger crowd. Our top game have around 1,000 daily active players, some coming from even the Solana community that indeed have some similar standards when it comes to on-chain gaming. And except that we have many DeFi protocols, AMMs, that are also using the cheap cost to build more creative logic.
So, Philip, you were very involved in the early days of building a snap and actually working with us on that. Can you tell us a little bit about what that experience was like?
Yes, so that was super interesting because it was something that is basically entirely new. We grasped that the opportunity was quite big, knowing how big MetaMask user base is. And the thing that I think mostly stuck out with us is that we needed to educate the user about what this is. So I know that the golden rule is to get as fewer clicks as possible, but in our case, it was basically going from 1 or 2 screens explaining what the snip does, how it behaves, and what it and how do you actually use it, going from 2 to actually 7 screens. So we did a ton of user testing. Every time that we increased it from 2 to 4, it still wasn't enough. They were still confused. And then at one point, I think at 7 screens, and it sounds a lot, but if they are kept engaging and in an educating way, users actually know, okay, this is what it does, this is how I can use it, and they feel comfortable using it. Because again, I think from a wallet's perspective, the number one thing that we need to achieve is to get users comfortable using the wallet. Because it's a scary thing, using a wallet in a sense. So education, and getting the user comfortable was the number one thing for us.
I want to welcome Sanjeev, who's here now. Sanjeev, can you also introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about Cosmos and your experience building a snap for Cosmos.
Absolutely. Firstly, I'm really sorry for the delay, but great to be here. Excited to chat about our experience with snaps. So yeah, I'm Sanjeev. I'm the founder of Leap Wallet. We are a Cosmos native wallet which supports over 70 different Cosmos chains. We have our core wallet suite, and we also have built a bunch of other things, Cosmos, like front-end bridging SDK. We have the MetaMask snap, of course, and a range of other tools. Yeah, so our experience with snaps basically started around middle of last year when we found out what snaps was. And I think it was this perfect moment when a lot of people in Cosmos wanted to basically grow Cosmos, were thinking about how do we get more users coming into the space. And at the same time, so I realized there's an opportunity to do that with MetaMask and take away one of the biggest barriers to entry, which for a lot of users still is, if you are not a Cosmos native user, then you don't want to get a Cosmos wallet just for that. And so we sort of put out a few teasers just to see the sort of response we would get. And we realized both on the user side as well as the app side, there was a tremendous amount of support for this. It almost felt like it was a top 3 problem for like every app we're talking to. So we realized this is something that's really important for us. We started working with Christian and the team, spun up a snap really quickly. And honestly, it's been like a great experience. There's a lot of users who love it. And we can obviously continue to work with the team on improving the UX. Very iterative cycle in terms of learning from there, bring it back to the MetaMask team. But on the whole, it's been like very successful for us.
So I want to talk a little bit next about technical side of things, and I want to start with Ohad. So, me as like an EVM developer, right? I'm pretty comfortable with EVM. Like, why Starknet? Like, why Cairo? Like, what are some of the benefits, some of the things that developers have access to that they may not have in the EVM world?
Yeah, so those are 2 very, very different questions. Why Starknet has much more than our advantages over the EVM, but I'll focus firstly on this. So in Starknet, we basically we had advantage of launching much after Ethereum, right? So, and also another advantage of saying we don't care about EVM because, I said that like launching a layer 2 on EVM when, Ethereum was in many, many years ago already is like designing a plane, but saying let's do car and attach to it wheels, right? So it will fly, but it will still feel like a car. We really want to design a plane. So what we did, we looked on the amazing ideas of account abstractions, right? That Ethereum basically had those ideas after they launched and they became stack because you can't really move the network to there. But we launched with account abstraction as a first-class citizen, which means that the integration was harder probably than in many other places for snaps. But it also means that users on Starknet can sign with their fingertips on every transaction, right? Or have through-factor authentication, or design guardians, and like it's really a level of flexibility, or like, have an account that doesn't let you spend more than very little amount of money per day. And now, using those primitives, we launch a lot of revolutionary products, like even a credit card and so on. And this is, I think, what makes Darknet unique in the account perspective, except that we just have great proving technology, much better than any other L2 user, which allows us to be also the cheapest L2 now after the 4844 passed. And we have a lot of, because of those all unique features with a bit of high entrance bar, we are blessed to have great developer community, which shows a lot of innovative things. Yeah.
Yeah, similar question for Philip and Sanjeev. So for a developer coming from the EVM world, what do they need to know to onboard into developing for Solana and also for Cosmos? You want to go first, Sanjeev? Or?
I'll let you go first.
Cool. Yeah, so I think the paradigm with Cosmos itself is very different from the EVM or Solana paradigm, which is in the EVM world, if you are a developer, you have an idea, you typically might start off as building a smart contract or a set of smart contracts on a particular blockchain. But Cosmos is rooted in the idea of app chains, which are application-specific blockchains, right? So right now, there's maybe more than 200 different Cosmos chains. Not all of them are app chains, but I'd say the primary story with Cosmos is around app chains. And so as a developer starting in the ecosystem, firstly, the reason why you would choose an app chain is because it gave you certain benefits in the form of having, let's say, sovereignty, in the ability to completely customize the sort of experience that you need for your application. But it also came with certain trade-offs, like you probably needed to have your own validator set, you probably needed to think about incentives to bootstrap the ecosystem. A lot of those problems are getting solved today through shared security and other incentives. But fundamentally, the idea still is you are running your own blockchains, right? So it comes with benefits. There's probably also some trade-offs to think about.
I'll answer this a little bit philosophically, because again, I'm not a developer, but I can talk a little bit about the different mindsets that I think that we can see in the EVM world or in the Solana ecosystem. So basically, in Solana, everyone is focused on building a business more than building a protocol, to put it super bluntly. So, and I think that this is even more encouraged by the Solana Foundation themselves and everybody in the ecosystem, that you need to have a viable business building something on there, because without revenue, you're not going to sustain yourself as long as you can. So building something cool is great, but building something cool that users are willing to pay for and that you can then build out and bring that value to as much users as possible is, I think, something that, at least from my perspective, differentiates Solana a little bit more from these other ecosystems. And again, if you're a developer, there's a shout out to the Solana Cookbook, which is basically a developer onboarding library. So just Google that.
Yeah, so let's say I'm a MetaMask user. Today is the first time I hear about snaps. I'm super excited that I can explore these other blockchains with snaps. I install Leap, Solana Wallet. I install this Darknet Snap. I've loaded up some funds. What should I go do first? What are the dApps that are on your ecosystems that are going to give me the best first experience to learn about your ecosystems?
So when we launched the Snap, we basically thought about this. Okay, what will the user do? So we actually did a small quest-like platform called Soul Scout, as you're scouting through the Solana ecosystem, where we curated, I think it was in the end 25 apps or NFT communities or other types of Solana experiences that you can have, and I think that this was a great tool to push users in the right direction and do, okay, try this stuff out. So every type of these quests was, you do something with it. It's explained in very detail. So what is going to happen, so that they again feel comfortable doing these tasks, and from there they most often venture then on their own and explore more and more apps. But I think that this was a great first step for them to actually get more comfortable with it. Again, what will they do? It depends on what they're here for. So most often they want to make money. I mean, this is currently the state of crypto. So most like they go to swap aggregators like Jupiter. They're going to try out some perp platforms. They're going to try out different stuff, buy NFTs for super cheap because, again, transaction fees are not a thing on Solana. And again, it depends on what the user really wants to do.
Okay. Yeah, so I think with Starknet, the MetaMask Snap full integration across the entire dev tool happened like only 2 months ago or so. So things are much more fresh with MetaMask Snaps than I think on your ecosystems. And we recognize the potential, and I think we work now on a prompt speed to like integrate Starknet apps to as many applications as possible. I'll give a shout out to like 2 leading applications, and I'm very certain very soon you'll be able to use MetaMask Snap for them, because currently it's still quite limited. We're still younger in terms of our collaboration. So we have a lot of AMMs you can put liquidity into. We have the FaceSpring program by the foundation where you can get a lot of APR on that. For people that love more gaming, we have Influence, which is our leading game on Starknet. And I hope that in weeks you'll be able to use MetaMask Snaps for them.
Yeah, so in the case of Cosmos and our context, I think similar to what Philip said, what happened is when Snaps launched, as I mentioned earlier, there was a lot of excitement around Snaps in Cosmos. So we saw that there was like, a lot of people at this suddenly trying to install Snap, understand the experience, and we had a similar sort of web dashboard where we had like a video about how Snaps work, some experiences on what you could try in Cosmos. But what's I think happened over a period of time is we realized that the discovery of Snap actually happens through the application as opposed to somebody saying, okay, let me go install Snap to check out Cosmos. Right, so like 2 interesting use cases for us, both revolving around NFTs, there was this like NFT called Bad Kids, Cosmos. If you guys haven't checked it out, definitely check it out, try to get one. And another one called Celestine Slots. In the modular space. So in both these cases, there was suddenly a lot of interest in people wanting to get this NFT. And then the first thing that somebody would tell you to do is go and check out this NFT marketplace called Stargaze. And that's when the flow for the user would be that you'd go to Stargaze, you'd connect wallet, and then you see some unfamiliar names, and then you suddenly see like MetaMask. Right? So that's when people actually like discover Snaps, install Snaps. And so one of the things we've been trying to do is work with dApps to see how does the onboarding flow from there look like, right? So we are trying to build like an embedded SDK which has a bridging option, so that once you now connect and install the Snap, you can actually load tokens into the wallet and interact. So it's a slightly different flow, but that's kind of our latest thinking on this.
Awesome. So if you had the ear of developers and you could ask them one thing, what is something that you would like to see more of in your ecosystems from developers? What should developers be building next?
All of our answers are going to be like more user applications, I guess, end user applications.
Yeah, definitely.
More real-life use cases. So, I mean, trading is great, but we need a little bit more than that. And I think that Solana is actually going in a really good direction. We have 3 really exciting applications like Helium, HiveMapper, and Render, which are really paving the way there. But that's only 3 of them. We need like 300 of them to move the space forward.
Yeah, I think like with real use cases, we also need to make things seamless as possible for people that are not tolerant to onboarding to like 7 different applications in order to succeeding to play a game or to trade. So this is also something we also work hard on. And I think MetaMask has great potential there. As like users feel at home in MetaMask, they don't need to install anything else, or just could be like in the vision onboarded to every ecosystem. I think that this vision is what really excites me in this collaboration we have with all of our ecosystems.
Oh, and stop building new NFT standards. Like, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I think pretty similar on the Cosmos side. I think Cosmos has been at the forefront of thinking about like, application-based blockchains. We've done a lot of cool work that's also been adopted by other blockchains. So that's where Cosmos definitely shines. But it is a very developer-first ecosystem where people are thinking about developer experience and developers much more than maybe they should be thinking about users. And that's something that we're trying to change. A lot of loud voices in the space are also trying to change. So yeah, again, we don't know what is there a particular category of applications that will pick up, user-side applications. But in general, let's do things that can get newer users into the space.
Yeah, I think we're finally past the point of every developer wanting to make another swapping platform or another NFT marketplace.
Yeah.
So getting there.
We're getting there.
Yeah, if we could get more developers past that point, it'd be really exciting. I think we have time for one question. So do we have a question in the audience? Anyone? Okay. Well, definitely check out the snaps featured here. You can explore these other blockchains, and I want to thank my panelists for being with me today. Yeah, great job, everyone.
Thank you.